Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar about how AI is transforming data and analytics for agencies. I'm Allison Weisbrot. I'm the editor-in-chief of Campaign US, and I'm going to be moderating this session today. So before we bring on our panelists, so far most of the buzz around AI has been focused on generative AI and what that means for content creation. But AI has huge implications in the world of data and analytics and how we use that information to inform advertising. So today we're going to talk about some of the strategies and technologies companies are using to harness AI's power today to automatically surface insights, optimize their campaigns with predictive analytics, eliminate manual tasks, and free up their staff. And we're also going to dive into some of the challenges that agencies are facing as they adopt AI and some of the things they're thinking about as this becomes a more embedded part of their workforce. So let's bring on our panelists today, starting with John Riley, co-founder and CEO of Akkio. Hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Jatinder Singh, global head of AI, data and AI at Accenture Song.
Hello. Hey there. Hi, everyone.
And Dylan Moratsing, chief data officer at T&Pm.
Hi, good to be here.
Hi. And then finally, Brittany Traphis, executive vice president of AI innovation at Fathom.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hi. So I'm thrilled to be bringing together this group of agency experts to talk about the next frontier in AI and data and analytics. Please remember that you can ask questions in the Q&A box, and I will pepper them into the conversation. So without further ado, let's get into it. So like I said at the beginning, most of the conversation around generative AI recently has been about generative AI and about creative, right? And what this tool can do from a creativity perspective. But there's so much going on in the world of data and analytics when it comes to AI. Some of it's new, some of it is not as new. I would love to get a sense of where your agencies are at when it comes to incorporating AI on your data and analytics teams and where you see opportunities. So I'm going to start with Jatinder on that one.
Hey, thanks, Allison. Great question to kick it off. So, I think you're right. People have, first of all, gone into the effectiveness and efficiency play, and we'll definitely be talking about that during this session. And then obviously generating content. But, we as Accenture Song, as the world's largest creative technology company, have moved from the art of the possible to actually doing. And those are the conversations that we're having, in terms of how do we drive growth through relevance at the speed of life? And generative AI is one of the ways that we are doing that. And so we're working with more than we have more than 700 projects underway across Accenture. And it's estimated that 50% of the growth is going to come in the customer space. And as I mentioned, we're not just talking about it, we're actually doing it, and we're getting industry recognition. So there's an event coming up next week, which is ICOM, an organization that sits at the intersection of data, creativity, media, and tech. Part of that includes recognition and awards. And we have 2 entries in a new category called generative AI. And that is our entry from Radisson Europe and from Saudi, from the KSA, from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, specifically focused on generative AI. So we've gone, and those are data awards. They are creative awards. So that's specifically work that we are doing with clients that is getting recognition, that's actually transforming client's business. Another way that we're doing it is also, as I said, through acquisitions. We're scaling our data and AI capabilities. I recently made an acquisition of a company called GemSeek in Sofia, Bulgaria. They are also up for 4 Gen AI awards as well, with specifically pertaining to clients. So we've gone past the art of the possible to actually doing work for clients that's now getting recognition in the industry that goes across the customer agenda. So personalization, productivity, innovation, sales, and service and commerce.
Yeah, so obviously Accenture is a leader in this space and making huge investments. I'd love to hear from Dylan and then Brittany about how your agencies are also kind of incorporating AI, specifically when it comes to data and analytics?
Absolutely. So T&Pm was recently rebooted as a brand from creative and media roots. And we were built as a fully integrated agency with AI at its heart. And we talk about the combination of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And in my role as chief data officer, a big part of my job is to help redefine that balance. And where we're finding success for our part is doing that for the likes of Toyota, Mars, Coke, using a lot of our partners' tools, developing our own solutions ourselves. Our partners at WPP have key relationships with tech partners such as NVIDIA. And we've built our own AI solutions through acquisition and in-house as well. And what we're really finding from the reporting, analytics, data science space is really collapsing the time it takes to get work done. I gave a talk recently internally where we walked through 4.5 months of data science, data engineering, and market research work in 45 minutes. Which really was like a moment to stop and reflect on the state of the pace of change. And we're only seeing that kind of output acceleration get even more pervasive as the more we dig into it.
Yeah, for sure. I think speed is a huge unlock. I'd love to bring Brittany, you in here to talk a little bit about how Fathom is using AI in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fathom, we're a performance marketing agency. So data has always been at our core in measurement. And what we've really embraced over the last year and a half is how we can use AI to increase the value that our clients are getting. And so, there's efficiency and like on that race to the bottom. And we look at it as how do we use AI to take us further and faster? And so we've really embraced a culture here of experimenting and everyone embracing AI and learning together. And the speed and adoption and acceleration has been faster than any of us could have imagined. Because we have everyone from our specialists who are straight out of college to our most senior executives who are constantly using AI tools, platforms, and really relying on our partners as well on how we can advance that. And what we're seeing, even especially in the last 6 months, is I would say that we're seeing an increased value. Things that would take us or our data science team months or lots of Excel sheets and processing and Python to do, we're able to do in minutes or hours. And it's getting us to be even stronger in terms of the performance that we are having with advertising.
Yeah, I'm curious, John. Brittany, you mentioned partners, and John, you have a really interesting purview across agencies, how they're sort of adapting AI in the data and analytics space. Talk a little bit about, whether what some of the panelists said resonate across the board, or what other trends you're noticing.
Yeah, I think AI and ML has always been sort of important when you're working in the media space or in the marketing space. And actually, it's why we actually founded Akkio. We're a technology company that delivers an AI services platform for working with data to agencies. And we got started when I was working in a marketing team and got frustrated with our inability to get custom machine learning models. But that was about 5 years ago, and the space has kind of exploded in terms of utility as like language models came along and started opening up all these like capabilities that we didn't have before for interacting with data and getting answers to like key questions. And of course, like there's a combination task here, which is like creating the great visuals and text messaging to like promote a product, but that has to be data informed to be done correctly. And then there's a lot of business intelligence tasks wrapped around that in terms of how you're actually performing in terms of executing for a client. And so we've seen agencies be like the very earliest of adopters in the space. They're definitely first movers because They offer this differentiated service to clients that your marketing team might not be sophisticated enough to be adopting yet, and they're doing it for everything from like like faster analytics and shared client analytics surfaces where maybe the client can ask their own question and get the answer without having to ask the agency to go scramble and get an analyst to look it up, all the way to actually building custom ML models like for a lot more applications than before, and being able to use these to like predict outcomes or aim spend more appropriately, so your dollar goes further. So the application space is pretty diverse, but it's definitely extended well beyond just sort of the use generative AI to make me some text or some images or something. It's expanding pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I'm curious how machine learning has been used in the data space for a long time. I'm curious how like the way AI is advancing and where it's getting to now is supercharging the way that agencies can sort of use it to pull insights more quickly. Brittany, I'm curious your thoughts there.
I'd say that's where we've seen the biggest growth recently. And so even from like an insights perspective, we've used it from everywhere as small as let me understand all of my advertising platform data. So 10 different platforms. And what should my bid cap be? Or where are those outliers? And by asking a question, we're able to get the answer fairly quickly. All the way to, for some of our higher education clients, we're using AI to forecast and predict enrollment numbers based on our marketing efforts. And because it's able to chew through such large amounts of data fairly quickly, to be able to get us deeper insights than you could get ever before. I think the other area that we've seen getting really great insights is, as John was mentioning, having MLs, like being able to chat with our data. That's something that we use Akkio quite a bit for, of just taking large amounts of data and asking questions around like, who is my best customer based on the profiles that you're seeing, or what are my top performing campaigns or KPIs. We're able to use that to make quick decisions, because in advertising, everything's quickly changing. And so this is making us be able to have a more powered by data and faster.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, AI just speeds everything up so much. And to that point, as we incorporate it more and more into our workforces, right, jobs are going to change. What processes and jobs at agencies today do you feel like are ripe for automation, and how can AI speed up these tasks? John, why don't you start with that one?
Yeah, so I think it'd probably be great to bring up a quick video here just as a sort of example of the tasks you can do when you combine generative AI with data. But any of the analytics type workflows, like show me a graph of something in my audience, these can all be like done with natural language now. And the systems, like at Akkio and many other places are building systems that allow you to like connect your data, your live data through to these engines. You can just ask natural language questions, get like the visuals like delivered immediately. And then you can actually take that like all the way through to a live report that automatically refreshes. So that's sort of the like range of capabilities. So if you think about all the tasks that you do when you're working with data, many of those can now be automated like up and down the stack. I'm not sure if I lost my video here.
Nope, we're back on. I'm curious, like for the agencies on the panel, like how is that unlock of being able to sort of like query data and chat with it in that sort of like human way? How is that changing the types of things that your
I
teams?
think I might have lost my video.
Let's get John back on here. Yeah, how is that sort of changing the things that your people spend time on? Jatinder, why don't you start with that one?
Yeah, I think it would build upon the point that John was raising as well. You know, the automation of the mundane tasks, things that people didn't really want to do or they were forced to do, we can definitely automate. You know, you saw John there through voice recognition, being able to do that as well. I would say it also gets speed to
Okay.
market. So the point.
Sorry, my video seems frozen, but I cannot hear Jatinder.
Okay. Sorry there, Alison. I'll hopefully we can get John back. But for me, as I was mentioning, you know, automating voice recognition is obviously one of the ways to do that. The point that Brittany was also raising is getting to strategic insights. So how can we get to those insights faster? Now, typically you would have gone, oh, well, I haven't done the research in order to get me to that white space of those insights. Now, what we can do is we can create synthetic audiences, right? So we can start there. If I don't have the data is old, or the research or the first party data wasn't sort of like developed for my intent, I can still get there. And so we now have the ability to bring in all of the unstructured and structured data and create data sets, synthetic data sets as well, to get to insights that are going to lead to a white space opportunity, ingesting sort of like, you know, all of the brand assets as well to ensure that we stay on brand, all legal guidelines, etc. as well. That just used to take a lot of time. And so generative AI is unlocking those insights and getting to those places faster. And we talk about using humans and machines. It's an assistant, right? And those two sort of like, you know, entities are going to need to remain in place. So we're getting there faster. We're getting there through new data sources, and we're identifying white spaces. So that's some of the ways that we are using these technologies for our clients, definitely in the strategy and insight generation space. That's then ultimately going to lead to more of value.
So how is that like what now that your team doesn't have to spend time pulling all those insights manually, what can they do?
So what that does is the unlock. So I use an analogy. If it takes 100 hours to do something, it's still going to take 100 hours to do that thing. 20, maybe 30, maybe 40% of that time, depending on the task, is now going through automation and sort of like, you know, for all of the mundane elements that were being done. Those 20, 30, 40 hours are now unlocked to think about ideas, to think about how do we take all of those insights to now start to ideate. So the one thing that AI still can't do is to sort of like, is to give us more time, right? But what it can do is to free up the time by automating tasks and therefore allowing us those 20, 30, 40 hours to think. So that's how those hours are being used, is they're being redeployed strategically to think about our client's business so that we can start to identify new revenue streams, unlock and lead with value, etc.
Yeah, for sure. Dylan, I'd love to hear your answer on that as well.
Yeah, we actually think of it slightly differently. Actually, we're seeing quite a few benefits of around AI usage in data democratization. So getting more people exposed to the same data that, say, previously was stored in a dashboard or a static report, even. More people can be querying and getting insights from that data, so that we're inspiring more data-driven work, which is obviously all of our tasks for everyone here on the line. And what would have previously been a manual process of requesting data or rigidly designing a BI dashboard or something like that, that time is, as Jatinder said, being redeployed for more creative tasks, storytelling, human insights, more innovative thinking, data partnerships, the things that are impossible for AI to do at this stage. That human persuasive element that we bring to the process.
Yeah. Brittany, do you have thoughts on how is this freeing up your team, and where is that sort of energy being redeployed?
Yeah, I was nodding my head quite a bit as both of them were talking. Definitely relates. We use the think versus thunk work a lot in our day to day. So reducing the thunk work, those mundane tasks, so we could think more. We've actually started to see that we're spending more time on reporting, and it's because we're spending less time building and the manual pieces, like Dylan was just saying. We have so much more data available to everybody now, that we're actually spending more time in terms of optimizations, developing those insights, because something that could have taken 3 hours in the past now takes 5 minutes. So you may not have gone all the way for those 3 hours because of time constraints, where now it's like, well, it only takes 10 more minutes. Like, I'm going to do that. And so we're able to go deeper, faster on that and really alleviate those, the thunk work of it and the mundane tasks.
Yeah, I'm curious, John, now that we have you back here, I'm curious what you're seeing
Yep.
across Akkio's client base in terms of like where time is being redeployed, or like what can your platform sort of like help agencies do, and as they have more time to think, what are you seeing them use it for?
Yeah, I mean, so it accelerates the delivery timelines on things like the media planning or RFP process, and so you can like really you could think about how to use that time, and you could use that time getting more clients and doing more total work. And obviously that raises some questions about how you monetize, like there's no charging by the hour when you're 10xing your efficiency, right? Like, do you have to go get 10 times as many clients? But mostly what we see is, like what Brittany was saying, is people spending more time like doing the thinking and getting more sophisticated in the execution so that they get better results. And any time that you can spend less time doing grunt work and more time thinking about what's going to generate the best performance, and you can have like answers at the snap of your fingers, it's going to let you be more effective overall. And so what we really see is a race for agencies to adopt the technology and start putting it into action, sort of like bottoms up, really. Like, people, they're in, like, before this latest like onset of big AI and ML adoption, it was a lot of top down exercises, like, sort of corporate goals to drive AI. But I think we're entering the era of individual adoption and efficiency gains. And so that's where we're seeing it, as like individuals using it, individuals sharing access with their clients so that they can use it together. And we're an embeddable platform, so a lot of agencies are even building us in to products or services that they offer, because you can actually like think about taking some of these things that maybe you had to offer as a service before and converting them into a bit of a product. So there's a pretty broad range of adoption cases, but they all kind of point down the same direction: is like, take large amounts of data, be able to like answer questions you have really efficiently, join that data, maybe data that the agency has about audiences with client first party data, build custom models very quickly and easily, and use those to make better decisions, sort of up and down the engagement stack, whether that's in the analytics team getting more efficient, in the media planning team, and the buying teams, all the way through to like, like media targeting. We have like people using lifetime value predictive models to predict for everyone who visits the website, like what their downstream value will be to the company, and then targeting their ads based on it, like so that they spend only against the highest lifetime value customers. So like a broad range of things that you might imagine, but everything underpinned by data can be accelerated.
Yeah, you bring up optimization, which I definitely want to get to, but a common theme I heard from all of your answers is, obviously speed and, the ability to process large amounts of data quickly, but also transparency, right? And like arming people with information that they didn't have before. I'm curious, Dylan, like from your perspective at an integrated agency, how does AI help drive that sort of integration between data and creativity, and how does that kind of change the nature of the work?
Yeah, so it means that there are more opportunities to influence the assets that are made, for instance. So a good example of that would be, rather than tweaking the last 5-10% of what we're producing, 100% of the shoot, or the virtual production even, can be completely tuned to the audience data, the real world, or even the simulation of outcomes that we can foresee based on the other parameters like the media budgets, channels, markets in question, category dynamics, and so on. So what that means is we've got a broader canvas for creativity, and our creative teams love that, because all of a sudden they've got more tech levers that they can pull to personalize, more opportunities to come up with creative executions that are more likely to see light of day. The asset utilization rate goes up when we know that the asset has a home for it. In a world where we've been data driven all throughout the process, quite often using clients' own first party data to spark that initial insight as well. So really it's been transformative, and actually it's an evolution of something that we spent many years working on, and the Gen AI piece is the latest build on that journey that we've been along.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jatinder, your thoughts on that question about how it's, AI brings data deeper into the work, just in your position as a, head of data at a creative agency.
Yeah, and a creative agency that's run by David Droga, the most awarded creative director in the history of our business,
Yeah.
my boss. So agree with everything that Dylan has said there. The other areas, and absolutely a need for, I'm going to use old cliche, mid and lower funnel, but we're also using it in the upper funnel as well. So how do we use it to build brand equity? And I'll give you an example of how we're doing that. How do we use it to understand the five senses? So we are now using Gen AI, for example. I'll give you an example of vision. There is a consciousness of color and there is a culture of color. We recently had a client engagement, launch a new luxury product, 17 markets around the world. You don't need Gen AI to tell you that London, blue and grey, looks very different to Mumbai, which is very, very vibrant. AI could already have told you that through the ingestion of millions of images and content and videos. It can quantify it, but what it can tell you now is cultural context. So, in the West, you wear white for ceremonies, right, for weddings and for christenings. And in the East, you wear white for mourning. So you're now getting cultural context as well that's associated with that. So yes, there's a consciousness of color and how color shows up. But as I said, there's a cultural component. And we're now extending that across all the five senses. So how do we interact with the brand? How tenacious is that brand? Smell has memory that's associated, for example, touch, feelings, etc. So we're going to those spaces as well. And then how do all of those insights ultimately feed a creative brief that is then going to enable us to build a brand as well? So absolutely core and center to performance marketing, but we are also looking at using it to fuel creativity at the brand equity level as well.
Yeah. Brittany, I'm curious how, you're at a performance agency, but performance ads still need creativity, right? So how are you thinking about how, like, what's possible in data and analytics can power the ads that eventually, go out into the world for your clients?
Absolutely. Where we've really embraced it is the ability to test those ads before they even go on market. So if you think about in the past, you would have to have a really sophisticated testing plan, put those ads out into market, see which creative would work. Is it this color button? Is it this image? And we would spend dollars on that. Now we don't have to spend those dollars. We can use AI to tell us and turn through all of that data, like both of them were talking about, to be able to identify what ad would perform best. And so we do that all the way from not just the creative, but even ad copy. So we're able to test ad copy, segmentation, a lot of the ad creative. So that way we can put those dollars to work faster to get more to outcomes instead of the testing part.
So John, you brought up optimization before, and AI is a huge performance driver. It can not only, help us draw insights from huge amounts of data more quickly, but it can predict insights. So predictive analytics can help, more effectively optimize campaigns in real time. So talk about how, like, what you're seeing agencies do with that as you look at the platform.
Yeah, so it's you could. I'll give you an example of like how you could use predictive modeling to optimize outcomes, and then do so in real time. Not only at the front end of deciding like where to send your ads, but also at the back end of evaluating their performance. So let's say you take like a brand's data that has their customers, converted customers. Maybe you have some customers who didn't convert, depending on the data that you have there. You can train a custom machine learning model to learn the patterns in, the demographics or the behavioral data of the consumers, and actually predict whether or not any given audience, like new lead for that brand is going to convert or not. That's usually called like a lead scoring model. That lead scoring model can also predict things like the lifetime value, like I was saying earlier. And so like one early way you can use it is if you have a bunch of audience data, and many of these large agencies do, you can go and pattern match in like the audience data set that the brand is not currently engaged with. And you can surface like which members of that audience are most likely going to buy, and why they might buy, which patterns are most suggestive of their purchase intent, which you can then use in your creative, obviously. But once you have that model that can predict the propensity to buy for somebody, if you then like take the leads that are generated from a campaign, the people who interact or click, and you apply it to them, you can actually see their buy propensities or implied values in real time. So you can start to analyze how your different channels or ads are performing like in real time before those people have to go through sales cycles. Some sales cycles are longer than others, and it can be really helpful if you have high value item, long sales cycle things that we're at the very top of a funnel, to get sort of early reads on like average propensity to buy to spend. And once you have that, you can calculate, implied return on advertising spend and start immediate real-time optimization. So there's just so many places where you can start to apply it. And that's just like a simple classification model or a regression model, which predicts a numeric outcome like lifetime value. You can also do time series models that forecast trends. And one important thing is that all of these AI and ML models are actually just learning patterns. And so you can actually have them surface the patterns. And it's the patterns that are really interesting because those are what drives the behavior. And that's where you can learn and adapt and optimize. So that's, we're seeing agencies across the stack build these types of models and use them to get more sophisticated, like before and during campaign, and all the analytics that surround that.
Yeah. So there's obviously a ton of different ways you can use it. I'd love to hear from the agencies how predictive analytics is sort of creating more efficiencies for you. Brittany, why don't you start?
A lot of what John was just saying. So what we've really been doing, and a great example is from the predictive front, is as we're pulling in data, historically that data would be disparate. And now we're able to aggregate that all together and start to understand across all of our different platforms, what do we think the performance is going to be? If we have a new campaign that's coming in and we have a goal to get X amount of new patients, for example, for a healthcare system, we're able to aggregate all that data together and see based on the last 3, 4, 5 years worth of data, what do we think is going to happen and what's the performance? That then, with those quick answers and insights through using AI from the human, this is where that human element and that empathy really comes in. We're able to look at it and say, all right, this is the strategy that we need moving forward. Here's how we want to adjust our creative, or here's how we want to target it based on these insights. And it becomes much more informed. And so to John's point, we're able to pivot a little bit more faster as we start to see that performance. And as we've been using the predictive analytics functions, it's pretty spot on. I'd say that, we're in that 90 to 98 percentile of accuracy as we're predicting, and that's providing even better outcomes and value.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, is it working? And it seems like it is. Dylan, I'd love to hear how your teams are using predictive analytics to, get to better outcomes faster.
Yeah, I think our best example of that is how we're applying creative analytics on a couple of our key accounts, such as Toyota and Mars, where they've got months or years of campaign data spanning many markets, spanning different model launches and such like. That's a wealth of information that's useful for training predictive analytics. And what you can do there is you can stress test creative performance before it goes live. So notionally what we can do there is, for instance, take what would have been considered underperforming or almost wasted media money, and and illustrate to clients quite vividly what the impact of that would have been if you doubled down on only your upper quartiles of the most performant creatives. So what we offer to our clients is a suite of recommendations, but then actually a live tool to make those tweaks, improve creative from that point on. So almost that those performance gains are then baked in from that moment on, from that analysis. It's super powerful, and only ever helps drive clients' bottom line.
Yeah, that's super interesting because normally we think about how AI can sort of help shift media investments, but now it's really becoming useful in creative performance too, which is something that was very difficult to measure previously. Jatinder, I'd love to hear how Accenture Song is using predictive analytics and how that's working out.
Yeah, so one of the areas that we're looking at is in terms of evaluating the entire ecosystem. So one of the things that we have developed is what we call TCIO, Total Commercial Investment Optimization. So if you think of sort of like, media, and we're starting to do this with specifically our retail clients, but in other industries as well. You are first of all measuring separately, 3 separate swim lanes, your paid media, right? So there's that's well tried and tested using those techniques. Then you have a separate group that's sort of like is measuring and optimize all of the promo or the trade dollars. And now, obviously, many of these organizations also have the retail media arm as well. So those are 3 things that are looked in isolation. So what generative AI is enabling us to do is to create the connective tissue across those 3 different swim lanes and to say, okay, now I want to look at everything together. So conversations that we are having with chief growth officers and chief revenue officers, that's something that they have been wanting to do, but there's been limitations in terms of how we've historically been able to do that, but we're able to connect those dots. So it's the optimization of everything versus I'm just looking at my paid media, I'm just looking at my trade and my promo media, and now over here I've got my retail media. And yes, we'll have a summit and we'll kind of bring those insights together. We are now doing that as a collective to optimize across that entire ecosystem. So those are some of the places that we're using data and AI to actually make those connections. And as I said, to optimize what we call total commercial investment optimization.
Yeah. And that will presumably create more effective campaigns.
Correct.
If you can kind of
Absolutely.
look across the whole funnel and not,
Correct.
all channels.
Correct.
So we have a question from the audience, which is interesting. So what systems and tools are you guys actually using when you talk about AI? And I think a lot of, agencies navigating the vendor space, as I'm sure you all know, is overwhelming. And there's a lot of different technologies that you can use. So Dylan, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you narrow down on specific tools that work?
Yeah, so we've got, as you can imagine, probably everyone on this call has strict legal, ethical guardrails, operational guardrails as well, info security and so on. And we distilled those into a red, amber, green classification. So all of our people can look at this handbook of what is in and out of fair play, if you like. In terms of specific platforms we work with, I suppose that the easiest one for us to default to as an answer in the public domain is the WPP Open platform. Open Creative Studio, Open Media Studio, and so on. Those are brand safe environments that call on APIs from Google, from OpenAI, and so on to access their LLMs, image generation, voice synthesis, and so
on. Jatinder, does Accenture have a similar sort of proprietary tool?
I would say tools, so probably a similar answer to Dylan. So, we're the #1 ecosystem partner for Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and that goes beyond into Salesforce, Adobe, etc. as well. So again, working with our responsible AI unit that's been up and running for 9 years, and my partner in crime over there, Arnab Chakrabarti, that leads that. We are identifying which tools, again, from a compliance standpoint, and we're also looking on a use case by use case basis in terms of which ones are going to be the most relevant. So it goes across the spectrum. But again, we're looking at those and reviewing those in relation to what is it that we're specifically tasked with doing.
Mm. And Brittany, I know, I'm curious how you navigate this world as a smaller performance agency. It's a different vantage point than an Accenture.
Definitely. And so we do have like the strict governance, like Dylan was talking about. So we have governance across the organization, and that really guides like our security review. And so we look at, does it align with our data governance, documentation, and legal? Security is number one. We work with higher ed, healthcare systems. And then we also look to see, is this going to help our fathomers? And is it going to provide value to our clients? And so there's a scorecard that we fill out as we're evaluating those platforms. We're in the process of building proprietary. We're not as far as Accenture is at this point, but we use Akkio as our number one. Not just because they're on the webinar. We use, all of our fathomers are using Akkio every single day, as well as a lot of the, ChatGPT teams and some other of our partners.
Yeah, each of you brought up governance, which is definitely an interesting topic when we talk about AI and something that needs to be top of mind. So, what are some of the things that you are looking for when you ensure that you want to work with a certain platform, and how do you think about things like bias and copyright and other issues when you evaluate different platforms? Jatinder, why don't you kick that one off?
Yeah, sure. I think this is a great question because it's definitely changed the way that we work as well. So I think typically we would go and have a conversation with the CMO. We would then bring along sort of like, then go and have a conversation with the CTO and then ultimately with the Chief Compliance and Risk Officer. This sort of like, the advent of generative AI has totally transformed the way that we're working. So now we're bringing all of those organizations together at the same time, because as you mentioned, one, there's a compliance and risk element that we have to address, and that's our responsible AI unit that's been up and running for the last 8 to 9 years. And then obviously which ecosystem partner is our client working with, or ecosystem partner, so that we can leverage the most appropriate technologies accordingly. So it's definitely sort of like, changing that paradigm in terms of there's an organizational change and there's a cultural change that needs to happen as a result of this, because we need to bring those three organizations together simultaneously versus doing it sequentially of marketing. We've got a marketing strategy. Yes, we've got a relative understanding of what the tech stack is. Yes, we now need to ensure that there's brand compliance and sort of like all of the regulatory. All of those three organizations now converging simultaneously. And it's great because it means that the three elements of that client organizations are driving the agenda together. So again, that's accelerating the timeline, but it's a cultural change as well for Accenture and for clients as well. So that's one of the big shifts that we're seeing happening.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point of view from the large agency side. John, I know you see across. Oh, actually, I'm not gonna. I think John's having an audio issue. So, Dylan, how do you think about this, especially because your data is tying so closely to the creative that makes it out into the world, right? So, like, how do you think about things like, bias and other issues that could arise when you're using AI?
Right, absolutely. And obviously we're also joint ventured with Group M, and we do think a lot about our responsibilities around the media aspects of the equation as well. Just on that point, I'd say is our clients impart a lot of trust in us, and just as the other agency partners on this line would attest, we need to respect that, and the way we work with our partners are usually driven by the specific use cases they offer, and then the specific technical and legal risks and limits that we impose on that. So, for instance, who is bearing the liability when you sign up to use a partner Gen AI service? If someone makes a copyright claim against something that we generate with that service, where do the queries and the stimulus data, where are those held? Are they training the model, or is it read only, if you like? There's a number of key questions that we go through and think about when we're evaluating how far we can push this, because really, we're lucky to have quite a willing and progressive general counsel internally that says, how can we enable these use cases to happen? And usually there's a technical solution. If it's not with one partner, there's another that meets our criteria.
Yeah. John, I'm curious, since you have such a broad purview over agencies and how they're using your platform, like what hesitations first do they have about using AI? And then what are the most common sort of guardrails or things that they want to see from you?
Yeah, so the hesitation is pretty shared by everyone, which is, I don't want my data or my client's data leaking or.
Oh, okay. Well, Brittany, I don't know if you wanted to jump in with thoughts on this one while we wait for John to come back.
I think I know where he was going with it. It's the question that we often ask. So, as Dylan was saying, we have a responsibility. We are stewards of our clients' data and their information. And so, our number one question is, what is your security? And we want to ensure that our data is not used for others' models. It's not going to be breached, that it's secure, that it's not getting put out in the public domain. And I think that's the number one question. And the ecosystem is just growing so fast. When you look at the number of AI tools that are spinning up every 30 days, it's pretty extraordinary. And so with so many options out there, it's quick to be like, here's a tool and a solution. And that's where, as we were all talking about governance, that's why it's just so important to ensure that we're staying true to, being the stewards of the data, the security, the legal aspects of it.
Yeah. Well, to your point, it's so fast moving and there's so much to learn. I'm curious how you're upskilling your staff, and not even just to use these tools, but also to know how to like protect themselves and how to evaluate different tools. Brittany, why don't you start with that one?
Yes, as a mid-sized agency, we have the flexibility to be able to bring everybody together. And so we do AI-specific trainings twice a month. So we call them Wisdom Wednesdays. And this is where we bring everyone together to learn specifics on AI, and then apply specific applications to clients too. So like just last week, we had Workflow Wednesday. And so we are working through specific AI workflows. And what is really remarkable about it is everyone's coming together and sharing their ideas. And so it is inspiring this new innovation across the company. And they're inspired to go learn and bring back that information. But also with having that ability to everyone be learning and creating that culture, in terms of like bringing on new tools, we have a full vetting process. And so that lives specifically within our AI solutions team and ensuring like we only use these tools. They're on the green list, or maybe they're being evaluated or tested. But the big thing is we're all learning it together. And I'd even say that across our whole marketing industry, right? It's so fast moving. Now, AI has been around for a very long time, but now that this is available at our fingertips, we're all trying to figure it out together. And so we also lean on our partners, and don't be afraid to ask them for trainings. Partners are more than happy to provide those trainings to help bring everyone along.
Yeah. Dylan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think I echo Brittany's thoughts there that we do need to bring everyone along on the journey, and we're maybe slightly larger. Last in December, we had to hire out the Leicester Square IMAX here in London to house all of our people and give everyone the same overview of the state of Gen AI, if you like, and how we were applying it. But the nuance, that level below, of how how people should act and what it means for their careers when beyond the day that they get back to their desk after that kind of event, that varies massively, and it's very individualized. So we've mentioned a couple of roles and responsibilities that are changing. John mentioned revenue models need to change, so that's got implications for finance, for client service, for for other parts of the organization. And I even think there are some non-obvious beneficiaries. So product management within agencies becomes a lot more important, because you're taking user stories and user needs and matching them to to potential solutions that are being evolved at a rate that none of us have ever seen before. So how we can marry up those opportunities to client solutions, it's a really interesting space. But like I say, it affects everyone in the agency and every role in the supply chain, but very differently.
Yeah, definitely. John, now that we have you back here, I'd love to. We're talking a little bit about, how important it is to upskill people as this space moves so quickly. What are some things you're seeing across agencies about like how they're preparing talent for this shift? And then to Dylan's point, like, are you seeing shifting business models now that, time and headcount isn't necessarily working now that agencies are using AI?
Yeah, so I'll take the first question first, which is the more, we have an internal policy at Akkio, which is use AI to build AI. And we encourage every employee to be trying a new suite of tools every day because the landscape and the ecosystem is changing so quickly. And we find that most people can get, a 2x plus acceleration in their ability to deliver. And that's all the way from coders to the marketing team, right? Like anywhere throughout the stack can be accelerated. And so by trying tools, by using them and experimenting, that's the way you adopt and get better and get faster. And sorry, what was the second part of the question again?
It was really two questions packed into one. So I was asking, Dylan brought up the need for business models to change, right? Because agencies charge an FTE, and if your hours, if you need less heads and less hours, what does that kind of mean?
We are seeing some early shifts there. I think it's more on the small agency side, where they have like a little bit more flexibility to operate quickly and start to change like how they integrate. Some of the large models will change over time. Some of them don't need changed. I mean, if you've aligned your incentives with your downstream customers so that when they get improvements in their performance, then you get improvements in your performance, then you're you share in the upside of the work. That's generally great. We've heard some stories about making commitments to outcomes because you can start to model them and starting to get like it's not like we'll try and see what happens, but you're paying anyways. It's more like we can have this level of impact and we can commit to that level of impact and share an upside beyond that. And those types of models I think are really friendly for the brands because they can get a better sense of what they're going to get when they engage and what the value they will have and some of the impact to their business. So that's some of the changes we're seeing early. I think it's still very much like the first few innings of the game though. So we'll have to watch as this evolves.
Yeah, for sure. So we have just a few minutes left. We've been talking a lot about what could happen and what might happen with AI, but I'd love to get a prediction from each of you about what will happen before, in the next year when it comes to AI and how it powers data and analytics at agencies. So, Brittany, I'll have you go first.
Oh, such a big question. Things are moving so fast. So as I think about in the next year how AI is going to help within data and analytics, I think we're going to see what we see today is probably what at the dumbest models that we have. And so as I look forward at 12 months out, I see these models processing data even faster and I imagine that we'll look back and, as I was saying earlier, like just the insights and the speed that we're getting them is remarkable. I'll probably look at it and be like, well, that was slow compared to what we were having. I think we do start to see more of AGI coming into play, as we were talking about that think versus thunk work and having those mundane tasks really be automated for us so that we are at a point where we take all of the guesswork out of it and we're able to truly make even more informed real-time marketing decisions.
Awesome. Jatinder?
Yeah, I think sort of like, building upon the point that Brittany's raised there is, for me, I think we're going to continue to see transformative value that's being unlocked as a result of now being able to leverage Gen AI, specifically in the data and analytics space as well. So, the example that I mentioned of total commercial investment optimization, I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're also going to see new business models that are going to be created, as well as organizations need to change. How are they going to change organizationally, and how are they going to change culturally as a result? So I think those are my two key takeaways. One, unlocking value holistically. Two, transformational change, which requires an organizational change. And who's ready to make that change is going to be the one that wins.
For sure. Dylan?
Yeah, so I think mine is maybe less glamorous, but more transformation. I think maybe people have been swept away by the awe and the fascination around Gen AI, LLMs, and so on, and maybe we've been able to get away with, overlooking foundational data quality. I think there's going to be a real focus on getting that core data right at the center of every organization, whether it be that within clients, within agencies, and having the data properly named, talking to each other, flowing efficiently, getting those foundations right. So almost like putting a spotlight on the basement, on the most overlooked part of the organization, because that's, everything else can then be built more robustly on top of that. I think that's going to be a real focal point for the whole industry for the next 12 months.
All right, John, give you the last word here.
Yeah, I do agree with Dylan there. I think, the thing about a large language model like GPT is it's trained on like the world of data, the internet of data. And so it's like a level playing field for everyone to take advantage of it. And what your real value is your custom unique data that you have that nobody else has, that you can leverage to make better decisions, making that data, having robust data, augmenting that data with the things that matter to learning the patterns about how people purchase and why they purchase will be incredibly important. And I think we'll see everyone get way more sophisticated and way more concerned about that. But I'll take it one step further. And I think there's a lot of like advertising channels that will no longer be able to get away with serving you underperforming ads or inefficient ads. And I know they all kind of play lip service to AI optimizing your spend and stuff, but their financial incentives are largely to take as much of the advertising share as they can of your spend, regardless of its performance. And they'd love to capture every dollar you spend and just have you be a little bit profitable. I think the power is going to swing back to the agencies and the brands a lot in being able to like really evaluate what's working and what's not and correctly allocate their spend. And that's going to have like a pretty broad ranging impact. And of course, that'll be based on how good your private personal data is as well. So that's my take.
Well, we all want a better consumer ad experience, right? So I think that would be good for everyone. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning in to this webinar. Thank you to our panelists. It's a great discussion. I hope that everyone got a lot of insights and it was super educational. Tune back in for our next upcoming Tech Talks, and thanks again for everyone's time.